how's it going? So I was not entirely sure that I wanted to film this, but I definitely do. So I wanted to make a video for you guys about the worst friend that I have ever had. And just a little kind of backstory about this person. We'll just go ahead and call her Nikki. So she and I started college at the same time, and she lived in another dorm. And actually I met her through my former horrible roommate, and I've already shared my horrible roommate story. So if you want to check that out, you can check that out. I'll link it down below. But I met her through this horrible roommate who at the time I didn't know was so horrible, although now looking back, I can see that the two of them definitely just deserve each other. So,
Okay.
I'm gonna try not to get too worked up in this video, but you never know. So this person was friends with my former roommate, and I should have seen like all of these red flags. So the first time before I ever even knew her, she was dating a guy on Brian's floor. And Brian is my husband, if you don't know. We met in college as well. So we all kind of were at college together. And this awful friend, like before I was ever even friends with her, before I ever even knew who she was, she walked into the hall where Brian lived because she was dating a guy that lived there as well. And she was like freaking out, like flipping out that he had done something, like trying to get in, trying to get roommates to let him in, all of these things. And
it was just like a hot mess.
When I heard this story, because I wasn't actually there, when I heard this story from Brian, I kind of had to laugh. So that was number one, where I should have known that this friendship was gonna go south real quick. The second thing is that she was constantly getting new roommates. She had a problem hanging on to roommates. And so she ended up actually living by herself. So in college, if you haven't gone to college yet, most of the time, unless you know someone and you plan to room with them, your college roommate in the dorms is like randomly assigned. And I'm pretty sure she went through at least 2 people before she decided to go to her own dorm, which was probably for the best because it was all a hot mess. So she and I started becoming friends, and she is what I would call like a fair weather friend. So she was friends with me basically when she had nobody better to talk to. And I was always really confused by this behavior because I am the kind of friend, or at least I consider myself to be the kind of friend that is always there for people. So if they need to talk, I'm always there. If they want some help with something, if I can help, I always am there for my friends. And so to have someone who is there and like really into hanging out with me and then just not really interested or like kind of blows me off half the time, I just didn't really get it. And for whatever reason, I sought this person's approval. So I sought Nikki's approval a lot. She has kind of like a charismatic, over the top personality most of the time. However, that personality can switch real quick to really negative and really mean. I didn't know that at the time, but when things are good, like Nikki is a lot of fun. And we have done things like we have gone out to the club together. We've stayed up all night talking. We used to go on drives in like Monmouth, Oregon, where there's like nothing out there, night drives. She just was sometimes up for everything, and sometimes she wasn't. And when you got on her bad side,
You knew it.
it was like all over. Everything was just super drama over the top. So I would describe her as a bit of a narcissist, and she really could not see outside of herself. So I don't know if you guys have friends like this, but people who,
I don't know how to put this exactly without being really mean, so let's just think about it.
again, I'm the kind of friend that I expect a two-way street. And so this person, Nikki, whenever I would call and talk to her, or she would check in with me, she would say something like, hey, how are you? And then it would spin into something about her. Like she would immediately flip the story and it was all about her. All of the conversations, every single one of the conversations was about her. She also really only would reach out to me when she needed something. So in college, it was usually if she needed to be lifted up after a breakup, because this girl was always dating guys. Like, I swear she had flavor of the week boyfriends. Like every other week she had a new boyfriend. And if she didn't have any of her other little friends to talk to, she called me And for whatever reason, our college was really similar to high school, so there was a lot of like high school antics. And so when she called me, I felt special. I felt like she was kind of bringing me back into the circle, and then she would do all this crap where she would push me away again. I don't know really why it went like that. I think that she was a bit of a social climber, and I didn't really care about all of that. So she chose the people who would get her popularity, who would get her attention. She loved attention. Actually, she probably still does. I haven't talked to her in a few years, but she probably still loves attention. And I don't mean this video to be bashing. I just want to talk about my experience with an awful friend so that you guys can maybe recognize some of these qualities in your friendships and basically take out the trash, like get the trash out of your life, because you don't need to be carrying this around. But back to the story, she just was always this fair weather friend, and she really only called me in college when she needed to be picked up after a breakup, or if she needed one more person for something. So for example, she decided in college that it was a great idea to get married to this guy that she essentially barely knew. They had been dating for a while, but they never really saw each other, and he proposed, and that's another thing. That was always her mission in life. And I'm not knocking getting married early, but she never took the time to build up relationships. She was constantly looking for the status symbol of having a ring, planning a wedding, and doing all of this stuff. And she ended up getting engaged when we were in college, and she needed another bridesmaid. She originally picked her bridal party and I wasn't in it, and something happened and I ended up in it because she can't hang on to friendships. She's just kind of a hard personality to be around. So I ended up being in her wedding, and that could be another video in itself, but there were so many demands and just ridiculous antics during this wedding. Like one time she was in the bridal store screaming at her fiance on the phone over like pink dresses and pink vests.
Really? Really?
But she just was overall like an awful friend, and I think our friendship became even more strained after I had Delilah. She couldn't be there for me when I had a child. She tried. She came over a few times and she would, you know, try, but she never like offered to hold the baby. She didn't make an effort to do things with me on my time schedule, because your schedule changes when you're a mom. And I'm not saying this to say that, you know, I should have friends that only work around my schedule. I'm not saying that at all. I just expect someone to recognize that my life has changed, and hey, let's meet up on a time when we both can, rather than let's go to a bar at night. Like, that just doesn't work when you have a baby. At least for me. It might work for some people, but that didn't work for me. And she was just kind of a horrible friend. And all along, I thought that she was a decent friend. And as I got older, you know, we had kind of lost touch, but we were basically just like Facebook acquaintances. I don't know if you guys have those from college and high school, but I have a list of people who I don't actually talk to, but I talk to sometimes, or maybe I'll comment on one of their things, but it ended up being like that. And there was a bit of an incident. She ended up reconnecting with Jackie, with that girl who was my former roommate. If you haven't watched the video, you should. It's a good one. And for whatever reason, that video really upset her because they had reconnected. And it's not like she could listen to the story and be understanding, but basically she acted like she was in high school, same stuff, and she removed me from her Facebook. She removed me from all of her social media, basically. She didn't say anything to me. She didn't come to me and say, hey, I want to talk to you about this. What's going on? I really respect this person now, and we're friends, so what's up? She didn't do the adult thing. She took me off social media. So that should tell you like how much she valued our friendship. It was about this much, I'm pretty sure. So that happened, and I was actually really upset about it because I had put in all this time in this friendship. Like, we had been friends since college. We have a lot of mutual friends. I don't know, it stung. It stings anytime you lose friends. But I was talking with some of my other friends about it, and one of them said, Well, it's a good thing because it looks like the trash took itself out. And I'm kind of a firm believer in that as well. So it looks like the trash took itself out. So if you guys have any horrible friends or any friendships that might seem one-sided, cut it loose. Cut it loose right now before you waste any more of your time. If you want to, you can leave those stories down below. We can all kind of, you know, connect and talk about our experiences with our awful friends. But that is my story time for today about my awful friend. And if you want to hear more story times, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. I have lots and lots of stories that I could tell you. If you are a new subscriber, welcome. Feel free to hit that red subscribe button down below. I do lots of planner stuff, a lot of mom stuff, and I guess I do story times now. Feel free to hit that red subscribe button below. If you are currently a subscriber, make sure you have the notifications turned on. And if you want to find me on other social media, you can find me over on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and all of that stuff is linked down below. And by the way, you guys, have fun today.